Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Our doc, Dr. Austin Perot, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. How you doing, man? Good morning.
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Not bad, bud. Not bad. Let's start off with Elgton Jenkins, Packers offensive lineman, center. Last week, Monday night, looked like he got rolled up on behind. You know, we've seen that with offensive linemen, right? I think that's got to be one of the offensive linemen's worst nightmares, getting rolled up on behind their leg in that.
Yep.
And limped off the field and ended up being a fracture, I believe, to the fibula. And it sounds like his season is done. So when you hear, I mean, is that kind of accurate with about 8 weeks left of the season with a fractured fibula, lower part of that his season probably would be over with?
Yeah, so they announced there was a fracture. In addition, there was ligament injury. So that either means, in addition to the fibula fracture, he either tore the deltoid ligament on the inner part of the ankle or potentially the syndesmosis, which is also known as the high ankle. With that combination, it's surgical for sure, which they've already announced. With surgery, yeah, it'll be 6 weeks before they allow him to really significantly weight bear in a full capacity, and then you got to ramp back up. So you'd be looking at return to sport at really 12 to 14 weeks at the earliest, and even then it'll be limited. So yeah, no question about the season is done for him.
Now with his position, I mean, obviously he's a bigger guy, right? Offensive lineman and such, and weight bearing. Does that factor into recovery time because of, you know, the position that maybe he plays? And let's be honest, he's a bigger guy than a lot of people too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, he's a big fella. I mean, I would say, honestly, he'll have a pretty standard return. A lot of times it's actually more the skill positions that are doing a lot of cutting and pivoting. They'll notice that little bit of stiffness more so. I mean, a lot of times the interior linemen, if you look at their legs, almost universally they'll have knee braces on, and then both ankles will be braced and taped. So those guys are walking around with relatively stiff legs from the get-go. Why? Well, because they get rolled up on. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And it's an interesting fact. I mean, a really common injury for linemen are knee injuries. And those braces have been proven to decrease the risk of knee injury. Unfortunately, there's an uptick in ankle injuries because when they get rolled up on like that, the force doesn't go through the knee. It's got to go somewhere, right? A human body's rolling on their leg. That often gets distributed down to the ankle, and so you do see a little uptick in ankle injury. So it's just part of working in the trenches down there. Those guys just tend to get dinged up with those type of injuries. So it's unfortunate to see something like this. The good news is generally people do respond in the long run to this surgery. They tend to get back to full or close to full, but it's a setback. I mean, you know, there's a window where he's not going to be able to lift weights and stay as strong as he was, and so there's a little bit of a step backwards. But with where he's at in his career, he's still young and healthy enough. I expect him to bounce back fully, but it'll be something that does certainly take time.
Travis Hunter, the rookie wide receiver / corner for the Jaguars, he had been missing some time and initially was going to be maybe out for 4 weeks, but now he has undergone surgery for an LCL surgery. And I was reading a little bit about it before, and it was a non-contact injury I guess he had in practice. And when you hear non-contact in knee, you think ACL. Is that still kind of common with an LCL non-contact injury? And, I mean, to be out for the rest of the year after an LCL surgery, is that fairly common for that time frame?
Yeah, so to answer your question, collateral ligaments, so the MCL and then the LCL, those are generally not non-contact. So that is very atypical, truthfully. And so when you see an athlete have a non-contact, you definitely worry about the cruciate ligament, specifically the ACL, although occasionally you can injure the PCL in a similar fashion, but 9 times out of 10, if not more, it's the ACL. So that is definitely atypical. So, you know, you almost wonder if he had a little bit of a pre-existing injury to that knee or something, because that just is just a weird way to do it. Now, if you talk about timelines, yeah, I mean, any significant knee reconstruction, and the LCL is no different, you're going to be looking at, 6 weeks of limited weight bearing. He'll have to be in some version of a brace for at least probably 10 to 12 weeks. You look at getting back to sport between 6 and 9 months. So, yeah, this is going to be, without a doubt, not only is it going to affect the season, it'll affect part of his off season as well. So I will say, I mean, you know, we do see injuries to LCL. Generally, we clump it in together with what we call the posterolateral corner, which is actually a couple structures, but the LCL is one of the big ones. If you look at that injury, it is much more common to be a contact, and usually it's part of a high-grade injury. I mean, do we see isolated ones occasionally, but a majority of the time you're doing a post-shot corner reconstruction in addition to an ACL or PCL. So it is a little bit different, but hopefully that's all that it is, and he doesn't have any other associated injuries. It doesn't sound like they've mentioned anything else that I've seen, but hopefully that's it, and he can bounce back fully.
Yeah, I think I read that it was an isolated injury or isolated incident or something like that too. So kind of, it came out of nowhere. It feels like too with Travis.
Yeah. Well, for sure, it was just kind of like oh yeah, he's a little injured, a little bit of time healing up, and all of a sudden it's like bam, he's having season-ending surgery. So, and certainly again, the mechanism is. I mean, I'm not sure if I've ever taken care of a non-contact LCL or MCL. I mean, they almost always are. You get hit either, of course, on the inside or outside. When you hit the inside, then the leg buckles out, so that's when you injure the LCL. And when you hit from the outside and the knee buckles in, that's when you injure the MCL. That's virtually always how it happens. So it is definitely a head scratcher.
Joe Burrow returned to practice. I mean, I feel like he's been a guy that we've talked quite a bit about the last couple of years and such, whether it's been a wrist injury and, earlier this year he had the turf toe surgery, and the Bengals deciding to open up his 21-day practice window, which from what I was reading from some people, I don't know if this is accurate, but maybe a little ahead of schedule than what they initially thought coming back from that type of surgery and that type of injury. Would you agree with that this is maybe a little bit of ahead of schedule for Joe Burrow to get back on that practice field?
Yeah, I would. I mean, it's a tough surgery to recover from. I mean, it's, again, just a real quick cover on turf toe. It's, you injure what we call the plantar plate. So it's the bottom thick ligament that kind of holds your big toe in place. And we've said it a dozen times. I'll say it again. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. It really affects the athlete's ability to push off and move. And so, I mean, he's not the world's most mobile quarterback, but he is semi. But even to throw, I mean, you have to push off and get your legs into your throw. So no question about it, it's a big injury for a quarterback. And so to have that surgery, generally they're going to be putting a couple anchors in the bone to tack that back down. So for him already to be getting back out there, I'm sure it's in a very limited fashion, but still, that is ahead of schedule without a doubt. No question they're going to have him play with probably either a metal or carbon fiber, we call them shanks, or inserts in the shoe to help protect that toe. But even so, it is, if he's sniffing the field in the next handful of weeks, I would say that's considered a huge win for him. And he's already proved resilient. I mean, last year he had that wrist injury, which was a very significant, scapholinate ligament injury to the wrist. That's something that a lot of people do not come back from. So for him to come back from that and now this, I mean, he's just proven to be a tough guy. I mean, obviously you get worried about guys getting multiple injuries like this, but he keeps bouncing back, it seems like.
Right. No kidding. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, the 49ers are very coy about this, and they were asked the other day about, hey, is he going to maybe have a redshirt type of year and essentially not play? He's still recovering from ACL, MCL surgery from November, so we're a little over a year at this point. So when you hear stuff like that, my mind all of a sudden goes to David Bakhtiari. Is there fluid? Is there cartilage issues and that sort of stuff? Because, I mean, Christian Watson's already back, and he had his surgery after Brandon Ayuk. And I know you have been a guy that says everybody heals differently and such. But, I mean, we're at this point. Does it almost sound like there's something else kind of going on with Brandon Ayuk right now?
I mean, I would say potentially. So to your point, yes, every knee injury is different. And we knew he was a multiple ligament knee. So there is a really big difference between a standalone ACL and an ACL with another ligament. So ACL with an MCL or ACL with a post-shot corner. The recovery timelines, although on paper are relatively similar, we know the athlete's ability to bounce back is definitely more, it's just drawn out and takes longer to get all the way back. Whenever we do surgeries on the side of the knee, so the MCL or LCL, that tends to lead to a little more stiffness, which can delay recovery as well. But yes, I mean, I think the $1 million question is, what were the associated injuries inside of the knee beyond the ligaments? And you could be talking about a real severe meniscus injury or, heaven forbid, a significant cartilage injury. And that's when you start getting into like, all right, are we going to have a knee that's going to become problematic for a longer duration of time? They certainly haven't said that out loud, but you start wondering at a year plus. But I mean, there's of course, every athlete who gets injured is always like, I want to get back as fast as possible. And we understand that, when we're treating them, that's our goal too. But at the same token, if you go back too fast, you really can increase the risk of re-injury. And so that's the balancing act. And so his team doc may be saying, look, you still have some quad weakness, or you still have a little bit of difficulty controlling, your hips, and so your knees falling in when you jump and land. I mean, there may be things that they see on exercise and therapy that just put him at higher risk for return. And the last thing you want to do is get him back out there and re-tear the ACL and doing this all over again. So there's a bunch of different possibilities. Admittedly, none of them are good. I mean, for him not to be back, there's something that's slowing him down. Could it be as simple as a little stiffness, weakness, swelling? Sure. Could it be a bigger injury that's going to be a problem down the road? Also possible. Obviously, we have to see how it plays out. But, yeah, it raises your eyebrows a bit.
I got to go back to Christian Watson, because there was a quote he said after practice yesterday, because he was limited in practice with a hamstring. But he told reporters, he's like, he's fine, he's good to go. They're just being cautious. And he said he told the team doctors, I like to be football sore, just not ACL sore. When you hear something like that, I mean, is that a real thing, ACL sore? Because when I hear ACL sore, I get nervous, because this is a guy who's still recovering from ACL surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if he's being a little tongue-in-cheek about, like, injured sore, like an actual injury maybe. I don't, hard to say for sure. I mean, anyone who's played football or any, sport that has contact, when you play a game, you played a game, right? I mean, you're going to have those aches and pains, and I think he's alluding to that. Perhaps, maybe he's referring specifically to something around the knee. Usually by now, if he's back playing, I mean, we wouldn't clear a guy. If they come into clinic and they're like, yeah, no, I feel good when I run, my knee hurts really bad, we're like, you're not ready to go back to play. So I hope he's not having a lot of knee symptoms per se. So my guess is he's being a little bit coy and just saying, look, I don't mind having pain. I just don't want the pain of a torn ACL again. But I guess hard to say for sure.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. So we got, I saw Landon Jackson. He's a Bills rookie too. He tore his MCL and PCL. Now, it's not the ACL, but it's a PCL there too. So, I mean, what's that? Is that a similar recovery to maybe like an ACL, even though there is no ACL involved in that?
Yeah, so the PCL, honestly, PCL reconstructions are a little more variable than ACL. They don't tend to turn out quite as well as ACLs. Now, the one thing is the PCL is technically an extra-articular ligament. Why does that matter? Well, it can heal itself. So when people have PCL injuries in conjunction with a collateral as well, so MCL or LCL, there are times we can brace them and rehab them. If they're high enough grade and the athlete is not responding, then we do reconstructions. I mean, I can tell you, I reconstruct both of those ligaments fairly routinely. I would rather it be an ACL. I mean, the predictability, the long-term recovery is just more predictable with an ACL than it is with a PCL injury. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, there's a big difference between a single ligament and multiple ligaments. And whenever you have more than one ligament, it absolutely makes the recovery much more rocky. And then, again, duration can be a variable as well. So did he end up having surgery, or are they talking non-op? I didn't see
I did not see that. Yeah, I did not see that yet. So I'm not
sure. Hopefully, initially, so if an athlete comes in to me with an MCL, PCL, we'll definitely consider trying conservative care out the get-go. And just, it depends on the MRI, of course, but you'll talk to them about, hey, we might be able to brace this knee. Now, it's still going to be a significant, we're talking months and months. Likely season ending anyway, if it's high grade. But you may be able to get away with conservative care because that ligament has the ability to heal. ACL does not. So once the ACL tears, it essentially has very limited ability to heal itself. So that's why so many people tear their ACL and basically right away are getting reconstructions performed.
Interesting. He's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Dude, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy maybe a nice weather today if you can, before it gets really cold and such. So, but we'll chat with you again soon. Okay, sir?
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. There you go. There's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.